it totally changed the way that I interact with the world and how I wanted to be in the world. I was living a life that wasn't mine. For the last 8 years, it's been this wonderful, very deeply challenging but rewarding exploration into how do I live from my heart? What was holding me back? If a score out of 10, how happy are you with different areas of your life? And if you're extraordinarily happy in those areas, you're living from your heart. If you're not extraordinarily happy in those areas, there's something there where your past is in front of you and it's blocking you.
You could have given up, but you didn't. You could have stopped believing, but you didn't. You could have kept living their expectations, but you decided to make this life your own. And in turn, you're here. Hello, everyone. Today we're meeting Ash Perrow. He is a personal coach, a speaker, and a podcast host. Hello, Ash. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Anna. It's an honor to be here with you.
Thank you. So let's start our conversation by diving deeper into your journey of becoming the one that you are today. So, what was the actual pivotal moment in your life that helped you to wake up, to realize that there's something more that you should be focusing on?
Anna, there were so many. It's almost like these happen there all the time, but there's two pivotal moments that come to mind, and the one that I'll share today was I was I went into surgery and I'd had a back injury.
Mm,
And during the surgery, the surgeons tore a vein and they didn't know that they'd tore a vein. And they stitched me up, sent me back to the ward. And during the night, I was in quite a lot of pain. And I kept telling the nurses, oh, I've really in a lot of pain. They said, oh, just keep pressing the pain relief, keep pressing the fentanyl button. You know,
yeah.
it'll come back on. And in the morning, the physio came in to get me up to start rehab. And so I sat on the edge of the bed and I looked down at my leg, my thigh was about twice the size of what it normally was.
Mm,
And I said to the physio, oh, my leg's not normally like this. And he was very young, so it looked like he was just out of college. And he said, you'll be right. Let's get you up and get you moving. And
mhm,
so I stood up and then almost instantly collapsed back on the bed. And I saw him run over and press the red button on the side for the emergency team. And the emergency team came in. They started initially, I'm like, oh, I'll be okay. I wasn't sure what was happening. I thought, oh, I'll be okay. And they came in, they attached the ECG monitors, and they're saying, oh, he's in a sweat. We can't get the ECG monitors on him. They put an oxygen mask on. And I kept thinking, okay, I'll be okay.
mhm,
And then I could hear them talking about me and they're saying, keep your eyes open, Ash, stay with us. And still I was in this state of calm where it's like, okay, we're just going through some stuff.
mhm,
And I could hear them talking about my blood pressure and they're saying he's not breathing, he doesn't have a pulse. And then they said something about my blood pressure, whereas his blood pressure is 52 on 36. And they kept saying, stay with us, keep your eyes open. And at that point, I thought, oh, I'm dying. This is dying. And it was it was a shock, but there was also such a deep presence to what was happening. I knew where
mhm,
everybody was in the room. I could see the physio over in the corner, and he was just pale, like really pale, looked
mhm,
so scared. And what started to happen was I was I had this great awareness. This is dying, and I just felt as I was starting to black out, I had this immense sadness, just so sad that nobody I loved was in the room with me. And that was one of my last experiences before I blacked out. And I remember this looking at the physio and thinking, you poor guy, you think you've killed me. And
mhm.
then I blacked out, except instead of blacking out like when we faint and there's just, there's nothing, you wake up and you're like, well, what
Yeah.
happened? My experience was that I became these ripples and these ripples were just going out and out and out. And I was very shocked that I could still think. And I had this
Mm-hmm.
deep sense that I felt like me. And there was this essence of me that I experienced where it was just me. I had no physical pain, no emotional pain, but it was just like this, I'll call it conscious awareness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to say, I want to stay. And I started going through all these people that I wanted to stay for. And so I had at that time, I was in a blended family relationship, and I said I want to stay for that partner, I want to stay for the kids, and I was still these ripples just going out and out and out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to this point, and I said, I want to stay for the work that I do, and walk the planet from my heart. And the instant that I expressed that, I came straight back into my body, opened my eyes. The medical team saying he's got a pulse, he's breathing. I was
Mm-hmm.
in level 11 pain. Like I started screaming because the pain was so severe from having lost so much
Wow.
blood and it was pressing on my organs. But was so grateful to be alive. And from
Mm-hmm.
there, that point, over the next couple of days, I kept thinking, did I just experience that? Maybe I just fainted. And then I
Mm-hmm.
started to think, well, I haven't been living from my heart. But if why did I have that saying, I want to stay for the work that I do and walk the planet from my heart, if I was already living from my heart? And
Mm-hmm.
so it totally changed the way that I interact with the world and how I wanted to be in the world, because I realized that I was one of those people who was basically a martyr, was operating out of obligation. I was living a life that wasn't mine because I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to please everybody else, right? Like you hear
Right.
a lot on social media these days, the people pleaser, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was me. And it wasn't my heart to be living from. It wasn't my essence to be living that way. And so for the last 8 years, it's been this wonderful, very deeply challenging but rewarding exploration into how do I live from my heart? What was holding me back? And so these questions just driving the
Mm-hmm.
inquiry, right? Like our questions that we have in life, we create pictures in our head of what we want our life to be like. And then we
Right.
have the questions, oh, how do I do this? And then that drives our behavior. And so very powerful question. How do I live from my heart? And what's the work that I do?
Wow, you just mentioned living from your heart, and I think a lot of people don't really know what that means and what exactly is implied by that. I mean, it's like we have that concept, okay, we're in our head, but we have to drop in our heart. But like in terms of the feelings, how is it different for a person who is living from their heart to feel, and perhaps they utilize some other guidance, maybe intuition, or what else you can mention that could really like signal to that person that this is them living from their heart and trusting themselves and really being authentic, because like you mentioned, a lot of people focusing on pleasing others and pretending to be somebody they're not. And by doing that, of course, they avoid certain unpleasant emotions that come up with the triggers with them standing up for themselves, but also like they abandoning themselves. They're not giving themselves the best chance to step into their power by just being who they are. But also, it's important for us to find that awareness, to come to this realization in this present moment that this is how we make decisions, not from our heart, but perhaps from our mind or our programming, right? Like that we're not even aware of. So, what you think would help people to become more aware and to see the distinction from living in their heart and how would it feel?
I think one of the keys is give yourself a score out of 10. How happy are you with different areas of your life? So, for example, how are you in your happy are you in your relationship? Give yourself a score out of 10 in your work, in your physical health, in your mental health, in your finances. Just go through, just starting with those 5 areas and
Mm-hmm.
go through and say, how happy am I? And if you're extraordinarily happy in those areas, you're living from your heart. If you're
Mm-hmm.
not extraordinarily happy in those areas, there's something there where possibly your past is in front of you and it's blocking you. So for me, that was one of the key things was I'd had all these, you know, traumatic experiences, mini traumas, severe traumas, and they were all in front of me in my life. They were all I hadn't worked through them. And so it's like, okay, if your finances aren't amazing, guess what? You can make them amazing. It's just that your
Yeah.
beliefs and the way that you're operating in the world are stopping you from having that amazing abundance, right? And
Mm-hmm.
fundamentally, too, like a key thing to remember is we are abundance. As children, if someone sees a baby, they can't help but love or help the baby.
Mm. Yes.
And when we're in our true nature, that's how it is with other people. We are true abundance ourselves. We don't have to seek it externally. We just have to be it ourselves and be that gift that we are. And it can seem a bit when, like I had depression for almost, I'd say 8 years. I had PTSD,
Mm.
um, and adrenal fatigue, and life was very difficult. I couldn't even comprehend what I'm talking about now in that feeling that. And so another little trick is you just take the next step. So, okay,
Mm.
what's the next step? And that living from the heart is trusting yourself, trusting those messages that might pop in your head or not go away. And so, you know, one of my experiences was when I had PTSD, the psychiatrist had diagnosed me as bipolar.
Mm.
Um, but none of the medications worked. And I found that I was just, the medications were making me worse. But I had this voice in my head that kept saying, go natural, go natural. And I want to acknowledge that there's been pharmaceuticals that have really helped me in my life, right? So it's not beating up
Mm.
on pharmaceuticals. It was just that it wasn't right for me at that time. And the message that I just kept getting this message, go natural, go natural. And so that's what I did. And my health really started to improve. And so that's listening to my heart. And a little
Mm.
trick that we can do because we forget that we have these past versions of ourselves that were in greater suffering. And a little, we're getting quantum, but a little trick is that we picture ourselves in that suffering and we send that past self a message from our present self. So what I do
Mm.
now is when I think of that version of me that was really suffering and trying to navigate PTSD and depression, I'm like, okay, go natural, keep going, go natural. You got this, keep going. So I'm sending that message back to my past self.
Yes. Definitely, that inner voice that's guiding us, it's very quiet, and we have to be still and really like listen and to become aware that we receive this guidance on a daily basis. And sometimes when we find this distraction, like engaging in different activities that will pull away our focus, and we don't listen, we don't engage with that inner voice and don't trust ourselves really, and then we can feel like we're lost, we don't know what exactly we should be focusing on. But with you really reminding us that this is what is very like subtle, but I think it's essential for us to come back to our bodies, come back to this present moment and start feeling, start letting ourselves feel on, processing those emotions on a daily basis and really giving ourselves space to heal as well. Because I think the hardest part is with you being hard on yourself. We find a lot of times how people are criticizing themselves, they beating up themselves more than they would do with another person. And they don't catch themselves doing that, right? And with us really like cultivating this self-care and self-love and compassion, first we need to we're gonna feel that right now we have the opportunity to heal, and we're giving ourselves space to heal, to recharge. And after us being ready to serve people, like first we have to come back to this balanced, harmonious state of who we can be and start listening to that inner guidance. I think that's something critical that we have to remind ourselves to be compassionate, don't you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we are space, right? It's
Yeah.
like if we zoom into our molecules and then zoom in even more, all you find is space. If you keep zooming, there's not matter, right?
Mhm.
Matter is made of space.
Right.
If you zoom into matter and zoom into matter and zoom into matter, we're made of space. So when you talk about space and stillness, that's a very natural state for us to be in. And I love that you said you can connect to your inner guidance in that state.
Mhm.
And one little perspective, right? If the mind is super busy, it's problem
Right.
solving. Yeah. And what instead of being in problem solving mode all the time, we need space. The space is where the magic is. And so for me, if I've been sitting here working for a while and I've got something I can't navigate, I go out,
Mhm.
go walk in nature or go sit in the garden or just take space, go be near. And there's I don't know, have you heard of panoramic vision?
Yes.
Yeah. And so when we have this wide view
Mhm.
and we can see, the sky and have this wide view, it actually opens up our thinking. Right?
Mm.
Our minds respond to space around us. And so that's one of the key things I'll do if I'm in my mind and my mind is in problem solving mode and I'm finding it difficult to get out of that, I just
Yeah.
go out and go somewhere beautiful where there's space. And then the answer will ultimately come. And because, like you mentioned, right, there's stillness.
Yeah, and I think with us really reconnecting to our nature, we can learn from it. We can see our nature being connected to the nature around us, and that space and spaciousness and awareness, consciousness. It's what everything is made of. And that's what we also made of, and we perceive what we're looking at. So everything is connected to that consciousness. And we are an integral part of it, a puzzle in a big, masterpiece, right? And everybody is unique. We have our own skills and talents and how we can serve this world, and we're here for a reason. And with us really like stepping into that authentic power, that's how we can be ourselves, and that's how we can be a perfect fit to that great picture of what we connected to. And by realizing that yeah, we can learn by just going outside and being still, being quiet and listening, and that gives us opportunity to see that mirror in a way, right? To remind ourselves what that everything is made of the same nature as we are.
Yeah, so true, so true. And another little simple strategy is just to journal. Right,
Hmm.
that brings the stillness. If you journal, so like I've got my journal right here. If you
Oh,
if you, you journal, you can hear what the mind is saying. And if you keep journaling, you'll hear what your heart is saying. Because eventually the mind settles in the process of writing and then the heart starts to come out. And if you're curious, how do I know if I'm in my mind or if I'm in my heart? The mind is impatient. The mind is judgmental. The mind is always trying to solve problems for you, right? So we don't want to make that the mind is bad.
yeah.
However, the mind is the tool, right? The mind is the tool for what the heart is guiding us. So those kind of things are the mind. And then the heart is patient. The voice of the heart is compassionate and kind and generous and loving, right? So instead of, oh, you idiot, can't believe you made this mistake again. Here you are back in this situation again. That's the mind,
Mhm.
right? That's that inner critic. Whereas the heart is, oh, dear Anna, I can't believe, oh, dear Anna, I feel for you going through this.
Yes.
You've got this. You just connect to your heart. Do what's right for you. Trust yourself. That's the voice of the heart. And so if we can connect back in with the heart, follow the heart. This is what the heart says. The mind might try and take over. It's a horrible master. Its job is to be the
Mm.
tool for what the heart's guidance is. And so operating from that place, and it's a practice, not a perfection. Operating from the place of operating from the heart and listening to the heart. I don't always get it right. It's a constant, there's a phrase, the infinite game. Yeah, it's an infinite
Mhm.
game learning to live from the heart. Sometimes we'll go off the path and the mind will take over. As you mentioned before, it's like, self-compassion. I am human. How beautiful to be human and have these in inverted commas faults or these glitches.
Mhm.
How beautiful, because it creates such a wonderful exploration of life when I come back to the heart and come back into that patient, kind, generous, loving state.
Yes, definitely. And I think with us making it like something that is important, once we realize that our connection to ourselves is what is the foundation for the successful life to emerge, we should treat it as a priority. I feel like it's important for us to have that integrate in our daily lives, to come back to that stillness, quietness, perhaps meditation, perhaps engaging in journaling or connecting to nature, whatever works for each one of us. And we're different, and what helps us to come into that flow state, right? To listen to our heart. I think is just helps us to get the perspective on life and to connect with our passion as well. Because with us, really finding that outlet, that creative outlet that is unique for you, right? I think it's very important because it's a part of your service to other people and a way of expressing yourself, like mentioning again of being who you really are and what inspires you. And if you are honest with yourself, if you're giving yourself time and treat it as a priority because you care about yourself, you're giving yourself, the best care possible that you can right now. And that's how you show, I would say, the universe, or show yourself even, that you make it important and this is who you are, and those are your values, right? And from that point on, you can start just noticing how everything changes in your life, all around you, and the interaction with other people as well. I feel everything starts with you and with your willingness to do something differently and to treat yourself with such a reverence, respect, honor, and love that you deserve.
Well, I love your wisdom, Anna. You got such deep wisdom. It just pours out of you. It really does.
Wow. Thank you.
Um, yeah, our true nature is, if we're connecting with true nature in the heart, it's like, when we were children, before all the conditioning got put on, and before we went through teenagerdom, where we were super worried about our identity and those kind of things, it's like we loved exploring, we loved playing, we love having fun, and the emotions just come and go in a child. One moment they're crying, the next they're happy,
Yeah.
the next they're angry. That emotional landscape just keeps coming through. It's like the clouds, all right? It just keeps coming through. But as adults, it's like, oh no, I shouldn't be feeling this way today. And that's what makes those really difficult emotions stick. And that's what prevents us from really living life to the fullest. And so having those moments of meditation, having stillness, having journaling, it's all processing. And it's not a perfection. We get so attached that we have to be perfect. We have to get everything right all the time. It's a practice. It's just this practice, this gentle practice. Ah, okay. I can be myself today, even if myself is anxious or grieving or angry or actually just totally furious. We can be those
Mhm.
things and they pass. All right? But if I'm judging myself for being those things, I'm judging myself for being human. Why have such a superhuman expectation on ourselves? And of course, one of the reasons we do that is so we don't get kicked out of our tribe. It's like part of our
Yeah.
primal human state was to be in a tribe because that's how humanity survived. One person on their own in the wilderness, they're not very powerful. They're not very safe. Whereas in a tribe, we're much, much safer. We have a greater capacity
Right.
for taking care of our needs. And so evolutionary wise, we have this process in our brain that tries to protect us from being kicked out of the tribe. And so that's the inner critic, right? Okay, so to
Mhm.
stay in the tribe, you must be perfect. We can do self-sabotage behaviors, we judge ourselves. And so all of these little things actually, there's something that people might like. If they find they have those behaviors, I have a free inner critic quiz. And it will help you identify, well, what are those behaviors that are stopping you from living the life that you want? And if you do the
Mhm.
quiz, you get like a 20-page personalized report and the strategies for working on those things that prevent you from moving forward. Because it's all about just taking the next step, no matter what level you are on. It's like listening to yourself, trusting yourself. Just take the next step, even if the smallest step is getting out of bed, even if the smallest step is just going for a walk around the block. It's like, okay. Even if the next step is signing up to an amazing coach like you, Anna, it's like, okay, that's the next
Yes.
step. That's the next step. Take it. Take it. You'll be okay.
Definitely. And I think we're being overwhelmed with having a big plan. Like, how can we make it from point A to point B with such a big jump? And we overwhelm ourselves. And with just focusing on next step, it's something that everybody can do. If you break it down to like small incremental changes that you can incorporate and move forward in the direction of that goal that you set for yourself, right? It's just something that again becomes easier to focus on. And the main thing is, if you are committed to that change, you have to be consistent. You have to remind yourself why you're doing that. Is your why powerful enough to wake you up, to move you forward? So again, like, you can be externally motivated enough to do something different about what you're doing. But if you are at the point where you decided for yourself, you decided that it's time for you to make a change, then are you committed to stay on that path one step at a time every day? And if you are serious about change, how is it that you are integrating your daily life? Do you schedule time on purpose in your calendar? Are you treating yourself the way you should treat yourself, with such respect and honor and love? And are you giving yourself the best care possible for you to really become that version of who you envision yourself to be? And it comes back to you answering that and knowing that clearly inside of yourself. And if you're still not ready, it's okay. There is no judgment. We judge ourselves and we always project that, right? We think other people judge us, or again, like you said, we're trying to belong, we're trying to um, make ourselves likable in a way, one way or another, to meet certain standards that's been set up by the society we live in, or the friends circle that we're engaged in. So in any way, we just need to like see through for what it is. And I think journaling helps with that. And we just need to um, show ourselves, this is how it's been so far. Am I really happy about how I'm feeling in relationship with others, or how I'm feeling in my work, in my career? Um, and see for yourself what could be changed. What is the pattern that you're running, right? Like, to become aware of that. And then again, if you are willing to make that change, start with small steps, one step at a time. That's what you should be focusing on, and eventually it unfolds and becomes like a momentum of change, and it becomes easier with time. But again, with your commitment and consistency, I think that's what's important for us to realize. It's not just you saying that I can, but really moving forward and taking action. Action is an important step.
It is, and it doesn't have to be hard, right? But most people think that if I'm taking action, I need to force myself. I was in cafe the other day and
Mm.
chatting to the barista, and he uh, he films, he makes videos for people, and he's like, "Yeah, I just got to keep pushing through." And so we had this whole conversation around it's not about pushing. It's about just the going, oh, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on. This is what I'm going to do. And if we can soften into what we're doing, then the heart comes in. The mind, right? You got to get it done. There's that phrase, get shit done. Like, there's a advertising company around the corner from me, and they have that on their wall in their office, get shit done.
Mhm.
And to one level, yes, it's really important to take action, but you don't have to, it doesn't have to be effortful. Right? It's like, okay, softening into, I'm going to exercise today and I'm running and I'm like, okay, which areas of my body are holding tension that don't need to be holding tension? And so that brings a softening into the practice. And so with the calendar, I can schedule my calendar knowing that I don't have to be super muscly, super fit by the end of the week. I'm going to make it 6 months. And all I have to do is turn up for my 20 minutes a day, or 10 minutes a day, or 5 minutes a day. And the subconscious mind will start to change. It'll start to get into the routine because it loves routines. So, okay. And the calendar, you create that from your higher self. You go, okay, what do I want my life to look like? Okay,
Mhm.
for that to happen, all right, I need to exercise 4 times a week. I want to learn a new career. Okay, for that to happen, I need to study 20 minutes a day. And you put those things in your calendar, they come from the higher self. You wake up in the morning and the little self that's trying to keep you small is like, no, no, don't exercise. It's too cold, or
Yeah.
it's rainy, or this person's really nice to snuggle up to next to. I don't want to get out of bed. That's the little self. Come back to the higher self. That's the one that created the calendar. It's like, okay, follow the schedule because that's your higher self, that's your heart, that's your inner guidance. The little self, it's going to complain because it wants you to conserve your energy because that's how humans survive, right? We see with dogs, they rest all the time and then they're active. That's our human body too. It wants to rest to conserve energy. However, we have endless amounts of fuel that we can access. So it's just overcoming those little psychological bumps sometimes and go, okay, the higher self said we're getting fit. The higher self said we're getting healthy. We're going to learn what we want to learn. We're going to create what we want to create. I'm listening to the higher self today.
Yeah. Yes. Higher self is always here with you, available to connect. It's just us creating that opportunity or space for the connection to happen by, again, being mindful, being aware, and listening. And that voice really, um, like, you recognize this is something that is not it's always for your benefit. It's not something that is rushing you to, you know, have a huge jump, but really giving you guidance of what is available to you right now in this present moment and you have access to. And it always feels like a next logical step. That's what I would describe it. Um, and I would like to hear your thoughts on that. I think it's just like sometimes people um, confuse the voice that they should follow, either that inner critic or that, like you said, small self, higher self. How would they know? Like for me personally, it feels like next logical step, and like you mentioned, also effortless. There's less resistance in that area. It's like, yeah, sometimes I think, why did I think about it before? It's like right in front of me, and it becomes clear, really.
Yeah, and if you don't listen, the universe turns up your suffering. Yeah.
Mhm.
So for me, there was when I my back injury came about surfing, or came from surfing, and I've had surfed my whole adult life, almost every day, and been surfing for 25 years. And but there was this, I didn't like my job. I didn't want, and I'd been
Mm,
on holidays for 2 weeks. I didn't want to go back to my job. I just, I was every day hitting snooze, every day getting just before work started, leaving as soon
right.
as it finished. It was mundane, right? And towards the end of the holidays, I was surfing every day and my back started to get sore. And
Mm,
one morning the surf was amazing. It was big, nobody was out, and it was the kind of surf I loved. And this voice popped into my head as I was looking at the ocean, and it said, "If you go surfing today, you will hurt your back."
mm,
And I said,
oh,
"Bring it on." Yeah. And so then I went and got my board, started paddling out into the ocean, dove through the first wave, was fine. The second wave popped two discs in my back.
oh,
Yeah. I
wow.
wasn't listening to my guidance.
So you knew it's about to happen, and yeah, you see, you ignored it,
Yeah.
but it was right in front of you, and it was helping you to avoid that situation. So that's
Yeah.
why I
And it was
think
the
we also,
suffering. The
Mhm.
suffering was my guide to change. Yeah.
Right.
So I wouldn't listen. I wouldn't listen. I wouldn't change my job, even no matter how much
Mhm.
I disliked my job. Right? And there was lots of good things. It was almost like it was just good enough, right? The work was good enough to keep me there, the regular pay packet. However, me as the center of my ecosystem, I was failing, as in I was more and more depleted resources. I was unhappy, and that was impacting my family, everybody around me, my work, and I wouldn't change. What happened was eventually I did leave that job.
Right.
Somebody that really loved the job came in. They love doing that work. And so I
Mm,
facilitated their enjoyment and the organization's functionality and how they were helping people by getting out of it and added value to my life. But I wouldn't listen, so the universe turned up my suffering, and it was screaming at me, right? And then I still wouldn't listen when I had the back injury. So the universe basically
mm.
said to me, "Look, if you're not going to wake up in this lifetime, die."
Yes. And it was a moment for you to wake up, and sometimes, um, usually it starts with the voice being whispering, and then it becomes louder and louder, and now it's in your face, like you can't really avoid it. And that's where you found yourself being in the hospital bed with that excruciating pain, as I understand. And sometimes looking back, we understand why things happen and what was the beginning of that voice, and then it's just progressed over time to get your attention. Everything is here for you to like to get some kind of information, right? From the outside there's information that come into your field, and it's the way you interpret that information. Can you read it like from the beginning, or you need more time to understand what's really being given to you? And with every one of us, we have a different level of consciousness of how we perceive our outside world, but everything is about you. Wherever you encounter, what is your life about? It's about you. So you just need to start interpreting that data in a way that serves you to see the benefit for yourself from every situation.
Mm. So true. So true. It's right
Yeah,
there, right? It's right there all the time. Are we
all the
going to
time.
listen? Are we going to take action on what the heart's guidance is?
Yes. And I'm so glad we had that conversation today. For those who would like to connect with you online, how can they find you?
So my name's Ash Perrow, and so people can look me up on TikTok. I have about 400 videos on TikTok. That's my main platform. Yes, it's back for now.
Great.
So that's ASHPERROW. And people can also find me on Instagram and my website, ashperrow.com. There's lots of free resources to help people move forward. There's 11 habits for connecting to your inner guidance, which is a free PDF. There's the free inner critic quiz, which I talked about. And so if people resonate with what we're talking about today and they want to move forward, there's free resources there for you.
All right. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy your day.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. An absolute honor, and thank you. Really love the podcast. Love your questions, and can really sense a really wonderful person doing wonderful work in the
Thank
world. And yeah, if there's somebody listening, been thinking about working with
you.
Anna, I say, yeah, take that next step.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and wisdom. And I would really let people know that they should check out your website and your social media and get to know you on a more deeper level. You're a great person. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, hit the subscribe button and share it with others. Stay tuned.